Well, let's wrap it up now with a live report from New York with our correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease. We'll also be joined by Dr. Krista Johnson, who is an associate professor and director of the Center for African Studies at the Howard University in Washington, D.C. She is a political scientist whose work has focused largely on African politics as well as health politics on the continent and the diaspora. But let's start off with Sherwin. So, Sherwin, what are those results looking like at the moment? 270 to win, 538 the total number of electoral college votes that were up for grabs. And I can see there behind you Donald Trump still trailing behind with 214.
Yeah, well, let's call it the slow crawl to 270, Aldrin. Let's reconfirm that for you. 214 for Donald Trump, 248 for Biden. Biden's moved up by 10 electoral college votes in just the last 15 minutes after projections now giving him the state of Wisconsin. Wisconsin, of course, part of that Midwest blue wall that Biden is trying to resurrect, the Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin blue wall that was demolished by Donald Trump in 2016. We have about 6 states that are still outstanding. So Donald Trump has done very well in traditional Republican strongholds. Biden has done very well in traditional Democratic strongholds. So we are left now with those middle states called the swing states, right? And the outstanding swing states, the southern state of Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Michigan. We are also seeing indications now from the Trump campaign that they will challenge the results in Wisconsin. They are calling for a recount in that state. There was a tweet from the president's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, just moments ago saying he's on his way to Wisconsin where they will initiate what they hope to be a recount. It's unclear if that will happen. And we've also seen a statement from the Trump campaign that they are going to sue the state of Michigan. Remember, we're still waiting for results to come in through Michigan. They are going to sue that state to stop counting ballots, right? Michigan is one of those states that will count ballots up until November 10th. That is what electoral law in Michigan determines. And now clear efforts here by the Trump campaign to undermine that count, a legitimate count following the law in the state of Michigan, but indications of real concern now in the Trump campaign as to how they get to 270, right? So let me paint a scenario for you, Aldrin. If you give the president all the states where he's leading right now, a place like Georgia, North Carolina, even Pennsylvania, that has been such a big conversation point. We also give him the state of Alaska, which is still counting ballots, the 3 electoral college votes there. The president cannot get to 270 without flipping a state like Nevada where Joe Biden currently has the lead. So if we were to give Joe Biden the states where he has the lead, so you take Michigan and Nevada, that basically gets him to 270 votes. So it's trending a certain way here. We don't want to call it yet. We don't want to jump the gun. We'll wait for the final numbers to come in. But this is going to, if Biden does prevail here at 270 or thereabouts, it's going to be a very slim win in terms of the electoral college. Of course, the popular vote is a much different thing. He's already leading by about 3 million votes, and that could expand as more ballots are tabulated. But in terms of the electoral college, Joe Biden does have an advantage now. That can change. There's some legal avenues here that the president will seek to explore, but certainly advantage Biden, Aldrin.
Okay, and let's bring in Dr. Johnson into this conversation. I just quickly want to read the statement that has been issued by the Trump campaign manager, that is Bill, who said that despite ridiculous public polling used as a voter suppression tactic, Wisconsin has been a razor-thin race, as we always knew that it would be. There have been reports of irregularities in several Wisconsin counties which raise serious doubts about the validity of the results. The president is well within his threshold to request a recount and will immediately do so. It comes as no surprise, right?
I think that's right, Eldrin, and thanks for having me on. The process, the democratic process and the election process is actually going as it was expected. We knew that there was a record turnout. We knew that because of COVID, there were going to be record numbers of people voting by mail, so that the process to count the votes was simply going to take longer. And we also probably anticipated that, of course, the Trump campaign strategy had a legal strategy, which was going to be to contest a number of these results in especially some of the most hotly contested races. So that has gone, as expected. And I don't think that we should put that much credence on that just yet. As the Wisconsin Attorney General said earlier on this afternoon, they're in the provisional stages. They've counted all of the ballots. They now go through a canvassing process. And it's not until a couple of weeks that actually an official certified count comes out. So I think we need to let the process unfold. And then we can see.
Allowing the process to unfold, but it would seem that the battle will now be in the courts. And just listening into what Donald Trump said earlier on, it was during the morning here in South Africa, where he spoke about going to the Supreme Court. And now we see, for instance, Kamala Harris also tweeting that last night Trump threatened to go to court to prevent all votes from being counted. But our campaign is prepared to fight back. Our work could stretch on for weeks, and we need your help. Can you donate $5 to the Biden Fight Fund today? I never thought that anything of this nature could ever happen in the U.S. elections.
I think it's interesting. This is the democratic process. I don't think we should necessarily read too much into that. The state where the Trump campaign has perhaps the strongest ground in terms of a legal contest is Pennsylvania. Yeah. And as Sherwin outlined earlier, Biden has a path to the presidency which does not include Pennsylvania. So I think if we go that route, the possibilities that Trump can kind of delay or kind of wind, kind of keep us in legal red tape for, weeks or months or whatnot really goes away. He is well within his rights. The campaign is well within its rights to request a recount. It should be noted, of course, that he, in 2016, his campaign won Wisconsin with just 22,000 votes. So it's a hotly contested state, right? So that Biden is up with 20,000 votes now is probably not surprising. But, there was that was about the margin that took the state in 2016.
Okay, let me bring in Sherwin back into this conversation. Sherwin, just looking at those swing states and the possibility of winning over electoral votes from those swing states, then this is now for Biden. Winning over those votes that would not necessarily push the Trump campaign into a position where they can actually have to fight going to the courts. Is the path really clear for Biden?
Biden had a built-in advantage as a Democrat coming into the presidential race, just based on the higher numbers that states like California and New York and Illinois present for a Democratic nominee in terms of those traditional strongholds. So remember, we had talked about how if Biden won all the traditional Democratic strongholds, he gets to over 200 electoral college votes. Trump gets closer to about 108. So his path was always more complicated. He needed more of a network of the swing states to get to 270 anyway, and that's what he achieved in 2016. So you could not discount Donald Trump in this election. But what Biden has managed to do here, Aldrin, is regain some momentum for the Democrats in this Midwestern area. He's not looking particularly good in Pennsylvania, where the president enjoys about a 550 vote lead. And while they talk about there still being a million mail-in ballots that are still yet to be counted, and where he could make up some of that deficit, as Professor Johnson has just pointed out, he does not need Pennsylvania to get to 270. He looks good in Michigan. He's just taken Wisconsin, and of course Nevada is trending blue with outstanding ballots there, likely to favor Democrats because they are the only ballots that have not been counted in Nevada are those mail-in ballots. But there's another conversation point we should be having about this election, and that's as it relates to the House, the House of Representatives and the Senate. And there is no taking away the Trump effect in this election. He has overwhelmed the polling in terms of the numbers that sort of put him neck and neck with Biden in places like Texas, neck and neck with Biden in places like Florida, the president has really outperformed those polls. The Trump effect, it seems in these early times, and remember there are a lot of Senate races that have yet to be called, the Trump effect has really seems to have given the Republican Party continued optimism that they will hold the Senate. They seem to have made some gains in the House, but this has not been a blowout blue wave, expand the map election for Democrats by any means. Yep. Biden, if he wins the 270, will sneak over that finish line, and Trump will justifiably feel aggrieved, having come pretty close to 270, but being pipped at the end here. So, yes, as you correctly point out, there will be court cases. This is part of the democratic process, not only in the United States. Perhaps you've forgotten what happened in 2000. It was the Supreme Court that determined what happened in the state of Florida between Al Gore and George W. Bush, and that wasn't that long ago, so people still remember that. And I mean, the president, Aldrin, also has made no secret of the fact that he was going to send lawyers into Pennsylvania, and of course, Rudy Giuliani apparently is on a flight to Wisconsin right now.
And speaking about Florida, those results coming up, did it come as a surprise at all that Florida went red?
It didn't come as a surprise that it went red. It came as a surprise that it went that red, because the polls had indicated that Biden had a bit of an edge there, right? Yeah. I mean, one poll had Trump up by 2, another poll had Biden up by 6, and the average had it sort of at a 2-3 lean towards Biden. What we saw in Florida was a huge shift demographically in the Hispanic vote, the Cuban expat community, the Venezuelan expat community that went, in great number towards the president in this election. So yes, it was the size of Trump's win in Florida was certainly a surprise, as was the size of his win in Texas. We had a polling that indicated a neck and neck dead heat at 48% each for both candidates heading into election day, and I think Trump won Texas by 8.
Okay. Dr. Johnson, just a final take from your end. Of course, Trump earlier on declaring victory, but then again contesting the validity of some of the results. What does this mean for the reports that we've touched on earlier on in the morning around the threat of violence?
Yes, well, yesterday we didn't see, the election day was really rather peaceful. The process, I think, in general has gone as planned and as it should be. Trump late last night or early this morning, of course, came out and declared victory, and has already sown the seeds of, if he doesn't win, then they're stealing the election. They're now ballot dumping and all the rest of that. I think that we'll have to kind of see how that plays out. I just wanted to pick up on what Sherwin said. It's really quite incredible how competitive Trump, even if Biden wins, how competitive Trump has been in this election. I think Democrats woke up this morning really feeling quite, in some ways, disillusioned and maybe shocked, with over 230,000 COVID deaths, with an immigration policy that locks kids up at our borders and separates them from their parents, with a racial reckoning, particularly around police violence among our Black population, the dismantling and the kind of crumbling of our democratic norms and electoral norms and institutions. It's even if Biden wins, one commentator said this morning that he's going to be governing in a Trump America. This is what America is, right? Yeah. That's stunning, and that's, I think, very disconcerting to many Democrats. There was a stark contrast in this election. Biden had a very clear message of restoring the soul of the nation. He kept continually saying that character is on the ballot. He brought a message of unity in the last couple of days of this campaigning. He campaigned in Trump's strongholds. The intent was to really build a broad coalition, even if he could peel off just a few of these blue-collar workers, disenfranchised and disgruntled workers. We'd have a broad coalition. In contrast, the Republican Party has put forward no platform. This is the party of Trump. Yeah. And that platform has basically been about fear-mongering, sowing seeds of disinformation and disunity. And the fact that even a significant minority of Americans found that to be somehow more palatable or acceptable to Biden's really very moderate message of unity and, progress moving forward is quite remarkable. And I think it also doesn't bode well for how we're going to move forward. Because as Sherwin said, if we look at some of the Senate races, it's probably less likely that the Democrats will take back the Senate.
Okay. Thank you so much,
McConnell's
Dr. Johnson. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, but we'll continue with our analysis of the U.S. elections as those results continue to trickle in. As it stands at the moment, 248 electoral votes that Joe Biden has secured, and Donald Trump trailing behind with 214. But of course, things could always change, and those swing states still up for grabs. It's the end of African Perspective with me, Aldrin St. Pierre. From me and the rest of the team, it is good night. Enjoy the rest of the evening. But of course, the Globe will continue giving you analysis of the U.S. elections as those numbers come in. And do we have the young old man standing by?
Yes, the young old man. Yes, indeed.
The young old man is standing by. Sherwin Bryce-Pease and Dr. Johnson, thank you so much for your time. Bye-bye.